Hi everyone, I'm Anime Octopus, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're diving into a fanfic exploration titled, What If Naruko Was a Geek Demigod? A reimagined twist on the anime world you thought you knew. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to the original creators and copyright holders. Let's jump right in. Uzumaki Naruko sighed. It had been 3 years since she had arrived in this new dimension, a place so different from everything she had known. When she first appeared, she had been hopelessly lost. People spoke in languages she had never heard, and the buildings and machines around her were unlike anything in her own world. For the first month, Naruko mostly observed. She listened, explored, and used her ninja skills to get by, sneaking small bits of food when she was hungry. But she noticed something strange: no one in this world had chakra. Absolutely none. At first, she thought she had just landed in a peaceful land where no one knew the ways of the ninja. Slowly, though, she realized it might be something else entirely. Perhaps the people here were a completely different species. She even wondered if she was the alien, and thought carefully about how to stay safe. So she decided to lay low. She restrained her impulsive nature, something she had never been very good at, and focused on surviving in a careful way. One of the first skills she needed in this strange world wasn't running or jumping, it was reading. At first, the task felt overwhelming. How could she understand centuries of history and culture? Surely such an advanced civilization would have libraries, she thought. That's when she spotted the big sign that read library. She felt a little silly for not noticing sooner. Inside, Naruko realized that reading alone wasn't enough, she needed details that weren't immediately obvious. So, she used her ninja skills to create a handful of shadow clones, each one assigned to a different section of the library. With so many years of training as a shinobi, she could memorize facts quickly, and soon, she was learning about the history of the land she now called home. She discovered the country had split from its neighbors centuries ago, and she marveled at something called the internet, a magical-sounding way to access infinite knowledge from home. Naruko also learned that the era of shinobi had ended over 500 years ago. People no longer needed ninja, which made her feel both odd and special. She was like a rare gem in a world that had forgotten how to sparkle like her. But she had to start somewhere. She needed proof she existed and a place to live. Getting a home was easier than expected. She collected small amounts of money here and there, careful not to be noticed, and soon had enough for a down payment on a small house. She took on jobs as a bodyguard, and while the work was slow, her skills made everything easier. Soon, she began to feel restless. Guarding people was fine, but she wanted more. Naruko decided to study formally. She wanted to learn, to grow, and maybe even teach someday. She imagined a classroom full of curious students, eager to hear stories about distant lands and ninja adventures. She chuckled at the thought, if anyone from her old world could see her now, they might not recognize her. But that was the joy of being unpredictable, of doing what others could never imagine. Sometimes, she thought of her home world, of the battles and hardships that had shaped her. She remembered setting Kurama free and the promises they had made to protect the world. It had been a time of struggle, but it had also been a time of growth. Now, she was discovering that growth could happen in different ways, in books, in friendships, and in exploring the wonders of a world without chakra. Naruko also discovered a hidden talent. Even without traditional chakra around her, her Uzumaki heritage allowed her to understand sealing techniques, something almost no one else could do. With practice, shadow clones, and patience, she became a master of seals, clever and resourceful in ways even she hadn't imagined. Her last mission in her old world had ended, and now she was free to wander this new one. She could help, explore, and learn, all while staying true to herself and the values she had carried for so long. Yet, as she packed up her books and prepared for another adventure, Naruko realized she had forgotten something very important. When you mix finely crafted magical artifacts that respond to the tiniest spark of energy with the forces of nature and ancient mystical energy, things can get a little unpredictable. Luckily, Naruko had managed to contain the energy, protecting the world from being pulled into a swirling time vortex. But in the process, she had been sent far away. She sighed softly. 3 years had passed since that extraordinary day. For 1 year, she had studied diligently, and 6 months ago, she had earned her high school diploma, whatever they called it in this new world. Now, she had enrolled in a university that let her explore whatever captured her curiosity. Lately, her fascination had turned to Greek mythology. It was astounding to her that so many gods existed, each with their own stories and domains. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Ares, Hera, Hermes. She wondered why the world couldn't just have a few gods instead of so many. And those titans? They sounded like troublemakers straight out of a storybook. Naruko spent most of her days in the library, poring over books. One afternoon, she finally spotted the book she had been seeking, a volume devoted to goddesses. She reached for it just as another hand brushed the bottom of the book. The hand belonged to a young woman with long black hair and striking gray eyes. Naruko realized she rarely saw gray eyes, they seemed to shimmer with quiet intelligence. The woman was smaller than Naruko, but there was a grace to her every movement. Naruko smiled politely, handing the book over. "Here, you can have it," she said, rubbing the back of her neck. The woman's lips curved into a soft smile. "Do you need this book?" she asked. Naruko shook her head. "No, I'm just learning about Greek mythology. I've read a lot about the gods, and now I want to learn about the goddesses." "Starting with Athena?" the woman asked. "Good place to start," Naruko said. "Goddess of wisdom and courage, sounds like someone with a story or two to tell." The woman nodded thoughtfully. "Good point," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then she waved as Naruko turned to leave. Over the next week, Naruko and the woman, Eliza, kept running into each other. Soon, they were inseparable on campus, talking for hours about mythology, exploring the library, and sharing little adventures. Eliza majored in history and was kind, disciplined, and endlessly curious. Naruko, on the other hand, brought a whirlwind of energy and laughter into every situation. Sometimes their adventures were unexpected. One afternoon, they chased a mischievous dog all across campus to retrieve a necklace. Another time, they accidentally stumbled into a mysterious puzzle in the library and ended up solving it together. Eliza, although serious, always admitted she wouldn't trade Naruko's company for anything. Greek mythology remained their favorite topic. They would debate and laugh for hours about Athena, Artemis, and Aphrodite, each offering theories and ideas. Naruko loved listening to Eliza's thoughtful insights, and Eliza couldn't help but enjoy Naruko's uncontainable enthusiasm. Their friendship blossomed naturally. Naruko treasured Eliza's wisdom and kindness, and Eliza appreciated Naruko's energy and creativity. Naruko often paused to reflect on her feelings, realizing that friendship could be as magical and meaningful as any adventure. She didn't rush, and Eliza respected that, understanding the beauty of growing together slowly. 4 months after they first met, Naruko decided to take a break to train and strengthen herself, just as she had learned to do in her previous life. Eliza, though a little concerned, trusted her friend and let her go, knowing that Naruko always returned from every journey stronger, wiser, and full of stories to share. Naruko journeyed to a secluded part of the nature reserve. It was a quiet, hidden place, tucked away under a clever little fuinjutsu she had learned. She could feel that something unusual was happening in this world she had landed in. A strange mist floated through the trees, but Naruko decided to leave it alone. She didn't want to meddle in the world's problems. At least not yet. Normally, she would have been eager to help, but the thought of strange machines, mysterious monsters, and unfamiliar dangers made her pause. She knew the monsters were probably long gone, but with her luck, she wasn't about to bet on it. As she wandered through the woods, Naruko realized she hadn't thought about where she would sleep. Aside from the trees, there was nowhere to rest. Still, she had slept in stranger places before. A sudden spark of inspiration hit her like a bolt of lightning. She still had the scroll filled with incredible techniques, powerful, creative ways to manipulate nature itself. She could slice through obstacles, shape the land, and even experiment with elements in ways most people could only dream of. Her mind raced with possibilities. "Ha! Who needs limits?" she laughed. "I can do anything I imagine." She loved experimenting with the elements. One of her favorite discoveries was that when she compressed wind, it could explode into a sudden burst of energy. She called it her Bakuten style, or explosion release. With each experiment, Naruko's excitement grew. She also began practicing Makuten, the art of shaping nature itself. She dreamed of creating a cozy treehouse, just like her friend Yamato Taiku had. With her excellent memory, she made sure to remember every hand sign, every gesture, every little secret of the techniques she learned. In just a month, she had grown a magnificent tree. It was strong, tall, and full of life, her baby. She smiled proudly at it, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. After so much work, she decided it was time to rest. Sitting beneath her tree, Naruko meditated. She tried to connect with the energy of nature, feeling it flow all around her. For a moment, it felt as if a gentle, unseen being watched over the forest. She didn't take the energy for herself, she simply let it flow through her like a river that split and wound its way to the sea. Suddenly, she sensed something, or someone, approaching. It was unlike the presence of an ordinary person. This presence was calm, powerful, and carried a kind of timeless wisdom. Naruko tensed, knowing she had to stay careful. She climbed into her tree and notched an arrow to her handmade bow, staying as still and quiet as a leaf in the wind. As the figure drew closer, Naruko could see she was human, but unlike anyone she had ever met. She had auburn hair that shimmered in the sunlight and eyes that gleamed a strange silvery yellow, like the glow of the moon. She was breathtakingly beautiful, yet there was something wild and untamed about her. The woman approached the tree and spoke softly in a language Naruko had never heard. To her astonishment, the tree seemed to respond. It shifted gently, as if recognizing the woman. Naruko's arrow slipped from her grip and clattered to the forest floor, but the woman reacted quickly, leaping aside. Naruko exhaled slowly. She didn't want to fight. She had learned that some people, or beings, were too powerful to challenge head-on. To her surprise, the woman drew a bow from seemingly nowhere and aimed a silvery arrow at her. Naruko rolled to the side and jumped, landing in clear sight of the stranger, both of them ready, cautious, but curious. They paused, sizing each other up. "Who are you?" they asked simultaneously. "What are you doing here? Why did you fire an arrow at me?" The woman added, her voice calm but firm. Naruko smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect anyone to be here. Or that the tree would move." The woman's eyes widened. "You saw that?" "Yes," Naruko said, pointing to her tree. "It's a little unusual. Grew almost overnight, and it moves sometimes. Strange, isn't it?" The woman nodded slowly, then asked again, more gently. "Now, who are you?" "My name is Naruko Uzumaki," she said. "And you are?" "My name is Artemis," the woman replied, her gaze softening. Naruko smiled, feeling a spark of excitement. This encounter, unexpected as it was, could be the start of something wonderful, a new friendship, a new adventure, and maybe even a little magic of the heart. Artemis could say that it was the first time she had met a person like Uzumaki Naruko. She was a one in a billion kind of girl. Naruko was many things: kind, bold, clumsy, clever-ish, and most of all, competitive. She gave off an air of confidence, but she was so childish in Artemis's opinion. And honestly, Artemis couldn't blame her, because right now. "Screw you. My name is awesome. Your parents' lack of originality, naming you after a goddess," Naruko shouted. "What kind of name is Fishcake? You have no right to criticize." Artemis shot back. "No right, my ass. GRR, hold still so I can rearrange your face." Because Artemis was being childish too. "Make me Archer girl," Naruko laughed. "I plan to, Whiskers," Artemis snapped. It was strange. Usually, Artemis was reserved, calm, in complete control of her emotions and her self-discipline. But this girl. She was wild, fiery, unpredictable. Maybe it was because she reminded Artemis of her brother, Apollo, and right now they were mock fighting? Nah, her brother didn't have whiskers. Naruko just seemed to ignite something inside Artemis. Maybe it was that competitive spark she hadn't felt in years. "Ha! I won. Take that, you prude," Naruko smirked. God, Artemis just wanted to wipe the grin off her face. "GRR, best 6'11", Artemis yelled. Why were they competing again? Oh yes, they had only just introduced themselves, and after a short chat, Naruko's energy had been impossible to ignore. Artemis wasn't exactly a ball of sunshine. Her brother was the sun, literally, but Naruko had called her unique. When Artemis asked what she meant, Naruko had said she gave off the aura of someone who could do many things but had to stick up where the sun doesn't shine. Oh. Artemis was insulted. So, of course, she called Naruko a degenerate, a vile person, and went on with her usual "men are silly, women are better" speeches, even though Naruko was a girl. Then came the playful insults, the back and forth, the challenge. "I win. Now what, Whisker Face?" Naruko taunted. PFFT. 1427. Artemis shot back, grinning. It was amazing, a human, or rather, a spirited girl, was keeping up with her, Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the moon. She should have been mowing Naruko down effortlessly, yet she couldn't deny it was the most fun she'd had in years. Her hunters gave her good training, sure, but nothing compared to the thrill of someone on the same level as her. Maybe she should start calling Naruko her rival. She hated to admit it, but Artemis was having the time of her life, even more surprisingly, with a female companion. She didn't usually get along well with humans, male or female, but Naruko was different. Only other gods could compare. Though even that was sometimes tricky. Oh, her brother. Uck. Hey. Don't take out your apparent anger on me, Naruko cried. Oops, sorry. Artemis replied, realizing she'd been venting. Somehow, Naruko didn't seem to mind, or maybe she was just that special. I think we should put a hold on this, Naruko said suddenly. Eh? It's been a week. I was supposed to go back last week. Don't you have things to do? Naruko asked. She had been right. Artemis had duties to attend to with her hunters, and she hadn't even noticed how fast the days had passed. Well, until next time, Naruko waved, gathering her things. Wait. Artemis called instinctively before slapping her mouth shut. Huh? Naruko said, looking confused. I want to settle the score. Meet back here in 2 months, so we can finish this, Artemis said, clutching at straws. She enjoyed her time with Naruko, and she wanted to win. Sometimes, she could be petty like that. See you in 2 months then, Naruko said, completely oblivious to any hidden meaning. As Naruko left, Artemis couldn't help thinking, if Aphrodite ever finds out about this, she won't let it go, ever. She stared after Naruko for a moment, then remembered her original task. Gathering enough wood from the special tree to craft a new bow, Artemis departed with a soft smile. Meanwhile, Athena, otherwise known as Eliza, was worried. Naruko was supposed to be back last week, yet there was no word from her. Athena knew Naruko could take care of herself, but still. She had a right to worry. She couldn't help it, Naruko was extraordinary. Athena thought back to how she had first met Naruko, usually in a library, quietly reading, full of clever ideas and endless energy. Yet things always seemed to get interesting around her. Athena loved that about Naruko. She didn't mind Athena's occasional flaws, and Athena found Naruko's reactions endlessly entertaining. Even Artemis had noticed something special, the small whisker-like marks on Naruko's cheeks. They reminded her of a fox, and they were strangely cute. Who would have thought? Even gods could find something human adorable. Athena decided then and there, she wasn't going to let this friendship stay platonic. Naruko was unique, clever, and lively, and Athena intended to show her how much she cared. If Naruko didn't feel the same, Athena would make the pursuit itself an adventure. So much for self-discipline. But sometimes, chasing after something, or someone, was far more fun than following rules. Naruko was no ordinary girl, she had the powers of a playful goddess. One sunny afternoon, she decided to visit her friend Naruto, who lived in a quiet apartment building just outside the village. She arrived at his door and knocked gently. Naruto, are you home? She called. Naruko? Is that really you? A cheerful voice replied. She opened the door to find Naruto juggling a stack of books with a big, goofy grin on his face. I was trying to reach the top shelf, but I guess I need your help, he laughed. Naruko floated in with a gentle sparkle around her. I think I can manage that, she said, waving her hand. With a little shimmer of her magic, the books floated safely to Naruto's hands. Wow! You really are a goddess, Naruto exclaimed, eyes wide. Thanks for helping me. Naruko grinned. It's always fun to use my powers for good. And maybe a little mischief. The two friends spent the rest of the afternoon playing games, telling stories, and inventing magical adventures, their laughter filling the apartment. Naruko realized that even with all her powers, the best magic of all was the joy of friendship. 2 days later. Naruko woke up in a cozy, sunlit room she didn't recognize. The soft sheets smelled faintly of flowers, and she stretched her arms with a big yawn. Everything felt calm and peaceful. She looked around and spotted a neatly folded outfit on a chair, along with a little note, "Good morning. Breakfast is ready, come find me in the kitchen." Naruko smiled. She remembered the fun adventures she had the day before, swinging through the village rooftops, racing her friends, and even helping a lost puppy find its way home. Life in Konoha was never boring. She quickly got dressed and ran downstairs, her heart full of excitement. In the kitchen, Naruto was flipping pancakes with a grin that stretched from ear to ear. The sweet smell of freshly cooked food filled the air. "Good morning, Naruko." Naruto called. "I made your favorite, berry pancakes." Naruko giggled. "You remembered. Thanks, Naruto." As they sat down to eat, Naruko felt a warm, happy glow in her heart. She realized how lucky she was to have such a kind and adventurous friend. Naruto always found ways to make everyone smile, whether it was through his jokes, daring stunts, or helping someone in need. Do you want to explore the forest today? Naruto asked, eyes sparkling. I heard the flowers are blooming near the river. That sounds amazing. Naruko replied. Let's make it a day full of adventure. Later, as they walked through the forest, Naruko marveled at the colorful butterflies and the chirping birds. They played games, climbed trees, and even discovered a small hidden waterfall. Naruko felt free, joyful, and safe, knowing she had a friend like Naruto by her side. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Naruko and Naruto sat together by the waterfall. They laughed, shared stories, and made a promise to always help each other, no matter what adventures or challenges came their way. Thanks for today, Naruto, Naruko said softly. It was perfect. Naruto smiled. Any day with you is perfect, Naruko. And so, the two friends continued their journey through life, exploring, laughing, and learning, with the bond of friendship growing stronger every day. Hey Naruko, where were you born? Huh? Naruko asked, pausing mid-bite of her burger. It's just. You never really tell me about yourself. All I know is your age and that you live here. But I've told you lots about me, so I figured it's only fair if you tell me too, she said, smiling as she held her burger carefully. Naruko chewed thoughtfully, looking a little bashful. It had been about a month since they started spending more time together, and everything felt easy and natural. She liked visiting her friend's home, especially because they could laugh, play games, and share stories without worrying about anyone judging them. Well, Naruko began, a small smile tugging at her lips. I don't remember much about when I was really little. I know I'm from a village called Konoha. I didn't have my parents around, but I had people who cared for me, and that's what mattered. They helped me grow up strong and kind. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you sad, her friend said gently. Don't worry, Naruko said, her face lighting up. I made the most of it. Look at me now, I'm in school, I have a cozy home, and I get to spend time with a really great friend. Her friend grinned. A family for one, she teased. Naruko laughed. A family, huh? Well, that sounds really nice. I think it'd be fun to have lots of friends and maybe even a little family someday. Her friend nudged her playfully. Do you mean it? Because you don't have to wait, you can start dreaming big now. Naruko thought about it for a moment. She liked the idea of a warm, happy future, full of laughter, friends, and adventures. Yeah, she said finally. I want that. I want to spend my days helping people, having fun, and being with the people I care about. Her friend's eyes sparkled. Good. Then let's make a promise, no matter what, we'll always stick together and share our adventures. Deal? Deal, Naruko said, raising her hand for a high five. They both laughed, sealing their promise with a cheerful clap. Outside, the sun shone warmly over the village of Konoha, and for Naruko, it felt like a bright new chapter of fun, friendship, and endless possibilities had just begun. From that day on, Naruko looked forward to every day, knowing that even if the past was a little tricky, the future could be filled with joy, friendship, and plenty of burgers to share. A month later, Naruko had been training hard with her rival, Artemis. She had always been competitive, and this matchup was exciting. Naruko loved a challenge, especially one that pushed her to grow. Sometimes it felt like the universe was on her side, and other times, not so much. Artemis had been feeling a little nervous. She had been thinking about their challenge for weeks and wanted to make sure she handled it properly. Her friends were curious when she stayed longer than usual, but she simply said she had discovered something fascinating that needed her attention. She didn't want anyone to misunderstand her intentions. Meanwhile, Aphrodite, a chatterbox among the gods, had been talking endlessly about the exciting adventures she'd had, and Artemis couldn't help but notice that some of them were a little similar to her own upcoming challenge with Naruko. The comparisons made Artemis feel a bit like a character from a story her brother liked, shy and flustered around someone she admired. One day, Artemis was lost in thought when a voice called out behind her. Yo! Startled, Artemis nearly jumped. Don't sneak up on me like that, she said, her heart racing. Naruko chuckled. Sorry. I used my super ninja skills to get behind you. Artemis swatted at her playfully. Silly answers get a smack. It's true, Naruko muttered with a grin. You'll never believe me, so I might as well make it funny. Anyway, are you ready to continue? Artemis asked, trying to focus. Actually, Naruko said, tilting her head thoughtfully, I have an idea. Since we're so evenly matched, why don't we challenge each other at something we're not so good at? What do you mean? Artemis asked. Why compete in what we're already great at when we can try something new? Something fun. Naruko's eyes sparkled with excitement. Artemis thought for a moment. It was true, they had been stuck in the same routine. That could be interesting. What did you have in mind? Well, Naruko said, tapping her chin in her thinking pose, first we have to figure out what we're not so good at. Artemis smiled to herself. She realized it wasn't about strength or hunting skills, she was good at all of that. But she did get a little nervous around new people, especially someone she found intriguing. Your weakness, Naruko said with a playful grin, is making new friends, especially with someone you like. Artemis felt her cheeks turn pink. Oh. That is kind of true, she admitted. Perfect, Naruko exclaimed. Then our next challenge is making a new friend together. It wasn't what Artemis expected, but she couldn't help laughing. Naruko had a way of turning challenges into fun adventures. Later, Naruko took Artemis to a lively festival. There were games, music, and lots of people. Artemis felt a little nervous at first, she wasn't used to crowds, but Naruko stayed by her side, encouraging her. See? Naruko said with a smile. It's not so scary when you have a friend with you. Artemis nodded, feeling braver already. She even joined in a game, laughing as Naruko cheered her on. For the first time in a long while, she felt the joy of simply enjoying the moment without worrying about perfection. By the end of the day, Artemis realized that Naruko's challenge wasn't about winning or losing, it was about trying new things, being brave, and having fun together. And somehow, that made her feel closer to Naruko than she ever had before. I had a lot of fun today, Artemis admitted shyly. Me too, Naruko said, grinning from ear to ear. And tomorrow, we can find another adventure to tackle, together. Artemis smiled. Maybe challenges didn't always have to be about proving who was stronger. Sometimes, the best challenges were the ones that helped you grow and make a friend along the way. And with that, they walked home side by side, ready for whatever new adventures awaited them. Why? She asked, puzzled by his sudden apology. I got so caught up in winning that I forgot to think about you, Naruko admitted, looking a little sheepish. I knew you didn't like that place, but I didn't do anything to make it better for you. That was selfish of me. I usually notice things like that, but I missed it this time. I guess. I let my competitiveness take over. She blinked, surprised. Thanks, she said softly. Somehow, this made her like Naruko even more. Seeing this side of her, the honest, caring side, made the day feel worthwhile after all. So, to make it up to you, Naruko said brightly, a mischievous sparkle in her eyes, let's go have some fun. What? She exclaimed. Movies, snacks, games, anything you want. It's on me. Naruko grinned, clearly excited. She laughed at herself for misunderstanding earlier. Naruko wasn't just competitive, she cared, and she was making sure her friend felt happy. That made her feel warm inside. The day turned into a joyful adventure. Naruko was charmingly clumsy in her attempts to impress or entertain. Despite her obvious skill and aura of confidence, she sometimes tripped over her words or her own feet. But that was exactly why she was so endearing. She had a way of making people feel safe and included, like everyone mattered. Later, while resting under a tree, her friend asked, so, what's your weakness, Naruko? What makes you falter? Naruko gave a small, thoughtful smile. I guess. I can't save everyone, she admitted. I train hard to be strong so I can protect the people I care about. But I know I can't always save everyone. Still, I won't give up. I'll keep trying because giving up feels worse than failing. Her friend nodded, understanding. You'd rather try and maybe fail than give up. That's what you're saying. Naruko chuckled awkwardly. Yeah. You're pretty sharp. I didn't expect you to figure that out. Because you're a bit of a goof, she teased with a grin. Naruko laughed and rubbed the back of her head, looking slightly embarrassed but pleased. Thanks. That means a lot, she said quietly. Don't let it go to your head, her friend said, smiling. Naruko gave her a playful look. You just had to say that. And you looked really cute just then, she added, teasingly. Idiot, her friend muttered, laughing, a faint blush on her cheeks. But I'm your idiot, Naruko said with a grin. Exactly, she replied, smiling. They shared a comfortable silence, enjoying the peace of the afternoon. Thoughts of friendship, trust, and the kind of adventures they could share filled the air. It was easy to imagine spending time together again, laughing and teasing, exploring the world side by side. Just then, her friend's phone rang. "Oh. I have to go." Something came up, she said apologetically, already walking toward her next task. "No worries," Naruko said, handing over her own number. "If you're ever around Cambridge, Massachusetts, give me a call." "Thanks," her friend replied, tucking the number away. "Until next time," Naruko said with a bright smile before starting off in the opposite direction. Feeling a little mischievous, her friend thought it might be nice to leave a small gesture of thanks. Quietly, she tiptoed behind Naruko and tapped her lightly on the cheek, a gentle, friendly kiss. Naruko turned at the same moment, and their eyes met in a surprised, silly stare. They laughed, cheeks warm and faces bright. The moment was awkward, funny, and full of light-hearted joy. "Well, that was unexpected," Naruko said with a grin. Her friend giggled. "Let's just say it didn't happen," she said firmly, though her smile betrayed her amusement. Naruko laughed, shaking her head. "Got it. Secret safe." As they went their separate ways, both of them felt the warmth of a day well spent, and the beginning of a friendship that promised many more adventures ahead. 3 days later. Athena was furious. She had heard that Poseidon had broken their pact about interacting with humans. It wasn't just a small mistake, he'd gotten a human friend, and now Zeus had made a new rule: gods had to be careful when interacting with humans. Athena hated having to enforce the rules, but it was her duty. She sighed. She would have to say goodbye to Naruko. It was hard, because Naruko had a spark that made the world feel brighter, and she would miss that. But Athena knew she couldn't interfere. Sometimes doing the right thing was hard, even for a goddess. She waited for Naruko to return from her daily training challenge. Naruko was a determined and cheerful girl, always ready to take on new adventures. Athena admired her courage. When Naruko returned, Athena smiled sadly and handed her a small gift, a charm to protect her on future adventures. "Take care of yourself, Naruko," Athena said gently. Naruko tilted her head. "Athena, will I see you again?" she asked. Athena hesitated but nodded. "Yes. But for now, you need to shine on your own." The next day. Naruko walked to the library, still feeling like something was missing, though she couldn't quite figure out what. As she reached for a book, a kind stranger grabbed it for her. "Here you go," said the stranger. "Thank you," Naruko replied softly. She gave a little smile but quickly returned to her reading. Something about that moment felt familiar, though she didn't know why. She shook it off and continued with her day, focusing on the stories and knowledge around her. Later, Naruko's pocket buzzed. It was Artemis, calling. "Naruko, can we meet? I need your help with something," said Artemis. "Of course. I'll be there right away," Naruko replied. She didn't know what awaited her, but Naruko was always ready to help a friend in need. The next day at a cozy hotel library. Artemis was nervous. She had a big favor to ask Naruko, and she wanted it to go smoothly. She thought about how wonderful it would be if Naruko could help her share a story she had been keeping secret. When Naruko arrived, Artemis took a deep breath. "Naruko, I need your help. It's really important to me. Will you help me with something very special?" Naruko nodded enthusiastically. "Of course. What do you need me to do?" Artemis explained that she wanted to create a magical storybook for children, filled with adventure, friendship, and courage. She wanted Naruko to help her make the story come alive. Together, they imagined far-off lands, talking animals, and daring quests. As they worked side by side, Artemis felt grateful. She didn't just want to create a story, she wanted to share something that could bring joy, just like Naruko brought joy to everyone around her. By the end of the day, they had created a beautiful tale, and Artemis knew that, even if Naruko didn't remember every detail of the help she had given, the story they made together would leave a lasting mark on the world. A week later, Naruko felt terrible. She had left her friend behind after their big training challenge, and she couldn't believe what had happened next. A magical mist had swept over the village, and suddenly, no one remembered her. Even her closest friends looked at her as a stranger. Her heart ached, but she knew she couldn't give up. She had to find a way to lift the mist and remind everyone who she was. With determination, she set off on a journey to the wind spirit, Zephyrus, hoping he could help her restore her memories and reunite her with her friends. At the same time, Artemis, the goddess of the moon, watched from afar. She had seen the courage in Naruko's heart and decided to guide her with secret messages and magical signs. Naruko didn't know it yet, but the goddess's help would be crucial for the journey ahead. 9 months later, Naruko was stronger and braver than ever. She had learned to harness the wind itself, gliding across the skies to save animals, help villagers, and restore lost memories. One night, she arrived in a new city, where she discovered a mysterious cradle floating on the wind. Inside was a small, golden-eyed creature with hair as bright as sunlight. Naruko knew immediately, this was a new friend, one she had to protect and guide. But as she reached out, the sky shimmered with the arrival of two majestic figures, Athena, the wise goddess of battle, and Artemis, who had been secretly watching her all along. Why is it always so complicated? Naruko muttered with a grin. Yet, even as these powerful beings appeared, she felt ready. She had grown, she had learned, and she had a heart big enough for every challenge. Hermes, the mischievous messenger, zipped around laughing. You're lucky, Naruko. Not everyone gets to meet gods and save a city in the same week. Naruko laughed too, finally feeling that no matter how strange or challenging the world could get, she would always have courage, friends, and a spark of magic to guide her. Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more. Thank you for your support. Anime Octopus.